The offer basically, initially. Fabric and his team got in touch and said they would like to discuss the idea of doing a book with me, and they came to New York, visited me, showed me the felt book and so on, and he was also working with Sheila Rock, who's been a friend of Minutes since 1981 or something like that, and so we thought, you know what, maybe this is a really good time to do something like that. Sounds like a great project, and the quality of all of the works and the books is just so exceptional that we just thought, this could become a really precious combination of an art book and a sort of biography with photographs, etc. really. So it was their idea, a great idea. Yeah, so we thought, my feeling is, and it's the same with Lady J, was just we call it the of course factor. Of course somebody asks us to do the book now, and therefore we should do it. So, we tend to think when a door opens, walk through. Yes. To create an autobiography, we say, we need enough money in the bank to be able to do nothing else but write that for 2 years because it's a big life. No offense to anybody, it's not being egocentric, it's a lot. So for this wee book we had to go through 1,000+ photographs and try to reduce that down to a few hundred pages, and that was really difficult. And ironically, as soon as it was done and at the printers, we were clearing out a closet and we found this green, pre-war suitcase that was Lady J's. Pulled it out and thought, I wonder what's in there. It's probably a load of old papers, you know. So we opened it and it was full of photographs. She'd been sifting all her favorites anyway, so there was all these treasures in it, meaning that we need to do another one. So it's an endless process if there's that many photographs, bearing in mind that Scotland Yard destroyed every one they could find. Then trying to write that is going to be 10 pages of photographs, and you're talking then 30,000 pages or something. That is huge. So what do? You do a indecipherable and do volumes, or do you pick subjects, like sex, do one about all your memories about sex, or one about music, or one about power and control and how to destroy it and so on. How do you do that? How do you construct something that covers everything? Totally, you know, with no boundaries to anything. You know, Lady J used to say, see a clip, jump off, and once, the very first time she was thinking about getting some therapy about her childhood, and after the first session, the woman psychiatrist, or psychologist, whatever, therapist said, oh, you know, you've got to be very careful about becoming codependent, and Jay just turned around and said, we want to be 100% codependent. Both laughed. You idiot. That's the whole point. Yeah, people miss that, you know. It's, part of it is, I hate to say this, but the media, especially the newspapers in Britain, painted this completely bogus image of a scapegoat that they wanted to introduce to the media. Yeah, so we're tarred with this completely twisted idea of what we're like. You know, people think they're going to walk into the apartment and see people hanging off the walls, orgies in the corner, louder than boar laughs, sacrosanct on the stove, and they walk in and it's neat and tidy, and people go, you keep this place so clean, and it's like, well yeah, we like it like that, we can't work in a mess. And the first thing we usually say is, would you like a cup of tea? And they're flawed, they think that's so bizarre. Yeah, bottom line was it's just, Lady J actually said not long before she dropped her body, all I ever want to be remembered for is being one of the great love affairs. And it's happening, you know, with the documentary, and then this, people are really beginning to see that, so much so that when we do psychic TV gigs, when her face comes up on the screen in all the video projections, and we sometimes say this song is for Lady J, they all cheer. They know who she is now, and that's really important, you know. Penis is nearly kissing. This is not your usual biography, get used to this right now. Oh yes, there was nothing that, if something turned us on, then we would do it, you know. It was about giving each other absolute pleasure in every possible sense, whether it was mystically or spiritually or hilariously or sexually, whatever. It was about being totally dedicated to the other person's desire, and that dedication to their desire being the most thrilling and rejuvenating and mind-bending, really. Sort of recognition of something that we discovered together, which was that it's true. The bottom line of everything is, if you can't give, if you can't let go of the fear of loss, or the fear of things are not working out, if you hold back at all, then you lose so many things that were amazing that you could have had. You know, we've had people come up when we've given lectures and one of the most common remarks we get is I've always been really afraid of completely committing to a relationship in case it doesn't work. And of course the answer is that, why it doesn't work. But then they usually say, but now I've realized I've wasted so much and I'm not going to do that anymore. And you just think, thank God you're not going to do that anymore. So, it was funny in Berlin, we gave a talk after the documentary got its prize, and this guy stood up in the front row, and said, you know, in a German accent, I've been following your music, your works for 20 years, and you always really scare me and I find the work so frightening, he said, but now I don't and I'm confused. We found out afterwards that he was a famous splatter filmmaker in Germany, so obviously he was confused if he was confronted with unconditional love. He didn't get it. He had a completely sort of self-invented idea of what we represented, and that's been part of this whole process, especially since Jay dropped her body, being, what we feel is re-establishing a much more accurate picture of ourselves, both of us, that, even people who thought they were our fans would have these really warped ideas of what it was all about and just pick up on what they thought was sensational, second-hand information that was sensational, thinking, oh, that's gonna make me exciting and interesting. Misses the point that, whatever you do, no matter how mundane, has to be done 100%. It's a real relief, it really is. And it's as if people also let go of feeling that they need to mirror what they imagine what we are, and they can relax and breathe out, oh, it's alright, Jen's like we are. Jen gets upset about things, and loves people, and is very human. You have to, it's hard for me, but you have to try to remember that a lot of people who see what we do now, we've always existed in their life from when they were a baby. There's always been a genesis. The idea that there's always been industrial music, that if you tell them there wasn't any once, they don't believe you. It didn't exist as a title of a genre before 75, they go, don't be ridiculous. They can't imagine the world without certain things, and so they tend to interpret it based on those preconceptions that they basically inherit from the culture. Just as they inherit moral standards from the culture they exist in, whether it be, you can have 20 wives or you can only have one, you can get divorced or you can't, you can be gay or you can't, so on. People come from all these different areas and zones with completely conflicting cultures, yet tend to assume that they are all the same, but they're not, and it's the same as how they view events or people and any image that's in the public media, but they don't realize that underneath that, under all the different variations, there must be something that we all have in common. Just by meeting Jay, she completely reinvigorated me and stripped away all the leftovers from the first 30-odd years, and that's why we did the photograph with no hair. Hair takes whatever happens during its time of growing, it's got the DNA record of the time it's been growing, so let's just shave all of our hair off and be reborn, ready to start our lives again with no history. That was what that was all about. We become newborn babies and then pick our own culture, pick our own direction, our own narratives, and live that, and fuck 'em all. One of the last things she said was, this year's slogan should be just fuck 'em all. Don't ever be pressured or surrender to societal or cultural or religious pressure. Truly, look at yourself, decide what you want to be no matter how bizarre or ordinary, and then truly live it. Don't hold back, don't have fear, don't surrender to pressure from peer groups or fashion. Just find out who you really are, and then if you have the great fortune to meet someone else who has the same basic feelings, then it just amplifies to an incredible degree. Yeah, that's me. I mean, we love sleazy. It doesn't matter if you disagree about certain aesthetics over some project when it all boils down to is it's all just bonus stuff, luxury, you know. What matters is true friendship, and we were really fortunate. We decided we needed a break. We went to Kathmandu, which we always do when we need a break, and then a friend of mine who went with me cause she was also getting over a relationship that had turned bad, and then through a discussion she realized you could get your teeth fixed in Bangkok a lot cheaper than America, so then we went to Bangkok to get her teeth done and stayed with Sleazy in his compound. And we were there for 10 days and it was great. We got on like we did when we first met. He told me how much he loved me and vice versa, and he He said, look, we'll never stop being friends, and we said, we know. You know, it's one of those things. True friends are people who, no matter what they've done, if they turn up on your door and knock, you always come in. It's always frustrated us both that they didn't see how much, though sometimes very dark humor, or very ironic stuff. I mean, we're from Manchester, and Manchester sarcasm is the highest form of conversation. Yeah, we love them too. There are so many things that we throw in, little secret jokes or, twists on normal ways of perceiving things, and lots of the time, yes, it's missed. I mean, a song called Hamburger Lady ... well, it was Jay's too, but then she was a nurse too. And that's what's interesting, we had a real vacuum cleaner in it. Imagine the picture of this woman who in an intensive care unit, the cleaners have come in to clean up, louder than more laughs, 'cause they do. Imagine that whole scene of them trying to avert their eyes while vacuuming, so it was almost a Monty Python scene with this terrible pathos and sadness to it. How do you deal with that? One minute you're like all the other people around you, then the next minute you can't speak, can't see, you can't remember what happened properly, and you're in this black place, thinking with some sensations in terms of tactile, that's all. Until you die. It's beyond our capability to take in, and so, that's when human beings usually do use humor and find a way inside the experience. Yeah, we've had so many problems with people misinterpreting things we say. We've just been to the hairdressers. What do you think? And we go, is her hair naturally greasy, or did you make it like that? They don't laugh. Yeah, it doesn't bother us. We're always looking to what's next. Or we did get some credit at the beginning when it was fresh and new, especially in America, because we basically moved to the Bay Area originally, and some of the full moon party people did too, DJs we knew from then and we helped with. One of the first things we did in America were raves. We did a huge one in LA with Timothy Leary and all these different people, and we did one in San Francisco that was amazing. It was called Don't Drink the Water. We had all these embroidered patches that were made by Tibetan refugees in Kathmandu that we left in shops, so people got these embroidered patches, and we did bumper stickers. People had drawn loads of cubes of acid and so on, and the first 12 hours were indoors, and it ran from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. indoors. We got all the light shows that were working in the San Francisco area, both old style with oil and so on, to the most technologically relevant at the time. So the entire inside of this building was like light shows going everywhere, and there were big bottles everywhere that said don't drink the water, and shot glasses and that were liquid LSD. But we did have two. We had people who did sort of EMTs, you know, medics there all day, and they set up two big houses for people who didn't cope, so we had set it all up properly. They'd always be warned before, there'd be someone there guarding it. They'd say, do you really want to drink the water? Sure, you want to drink the water? And that was an amazing evening, laughs. There were very few who could remember much except being really happy. But then after the first 12 hours we got the license to go into Golden Gate Park, and there we had an organic breakfast, and orange juice, and real water, and more music from DJs and so on. It was a 24-hour event. It was an epic rave. No one had really seen that before that point. And then, they just spread outward sort of. We didn't want to have a guru at the top, someone who had all the answers. We didn't want to do that. Hang on, looking after two children is difficult enough, but to have sort of several thousand looking to you as a mommy, daddy as well, that's the last thing we would want. We can't look after everybody else's lives, it's hard enough doing mine. The idea of being a guru was of no importance or interest to us, and that was a sort of a constant pressure, not from everybody, but from a certain percentage of people who kept wanting it to be a pyramid structure with someone at the top and it trickling down, you know. We were saying, no, this isn't anti-cult, you know, you get a number and you all have the same name, which stops the elitism, and people would start doing, well, I'm number 41 and you're number 117, so then we jumbled the numbers up, changed everyone so they couldn't do that, and every time people tried to set some kind of series of importance within it, any hierarchy, we would just fuck with it again. Then suddenly, instead of it being the boys having one name and the girls having another, we jumbled up the genders so they could never force this structure onto us. But after 10 years we had done everything we could find from that project, so we stopped. It was about learning to take care of yourself, learning to analyze yourself, and by doing that, by actually digging deeper than your daily way of behaving, seeing if you were capable of change. Isolating habitual things you did, whether it be responses to people who insulted you or how you dealt with the breakup of a relationship or an inability to focus on a project and getting finished, whatever it was. It was people finding that through the repetition of coming up with what is it I really do want? What is it I really desire? What's the being we want to be at the end of the story? And look back and go, this is what we really wanted to be. A lot of people didn't get that we did the sigils and they were supposed to. We did it for 23 months and then it got to the point where people were writing and saying, I've done my 23 sigils, now what? And nothing. If you haven't figured it out now, you never will. But anything like that has an element of being fashionable or attractive or a way to get back at your parents, or the system will attract some people who are more interested in it being something that they can be a bit mysterious about. Oh yes, I'm Topi, but I can't tell you about it. So those people are attracted to any idea. I mean, it's ultimately self-responsibility. They're obviously not bothering to think, and the whole point was to help you think. So, on the plus side, there are still lots of people who are involved with Topi who are doing amazing things. Justin of Cold Spring Records, he ran Northampton to Carla Brohamson, who first of all did Scandinavia, then Topi Europe. He has this amazing book publishing company and it goes on like that. There's a lot of people it really did maximize their potential for. And all of them are still around and all of them are still in touch, and it's almost like that's the graduating class that got it. Completely autonomous and doing things differently to what we do, yet that's what makes us happy. They understood it was for them. Not initially conscientiously, that's what we've always said, it just never got put into articles. You know, the number of times we've told people about that. We were in Kathmandu when the police raided and we were running a soup kitchen for lepers, beggars, and Tibetan refugees, for 3 months, twice a day, feeding anyone who came, rice and bowl and clean water, and giving beggar kids warm clothes for winter. You know, we were in Kathmandu saving lives at our own expense, and simultaneously to that one the Daily Mirror wrote we should be put in a cage and the key thrown away because of being such a satanic sadistic animal, and you think, hang on, how does that work? We did. They just ignored it. It's not a good story. Actually everything we've said so far was lies. The truth is that Jen's really nice apostrophe. Well, that's good. It's not as if it was that conscious a decision, it was intuitive. The book, and we have to do a shout out to Leah Mason, who's an artist in New York, a young artist in her mid-20s, who's really talented and is also the kind of person we would have wanted to attract to Topi in the 80s. She's really driven and she's very clear about what she wants to do and become, and even though she's been homeless most of the time we've known her, we've given her keys to the apartment so she can live here whenever she wants, even when we're away. She was the one who edited the photos down to what's in the book, mostly. When we got to about 1,000 pages, then we all started voting for which ones had to go, and if 3 people said that one doesn't add to the story, then it went. So it was much more intuitive once the editing was in process. We didn't sit and think, oh, this book is to vindicate or rehabilitate our image. We just thought we want this to be as honest as possible. He also had the fake breasts and the fake gold teeth. We don't think about it. Honestly. I mean, as you may know, we just did a remix with Trent. And he's a very sincere, very smart, but very open emotionally, and he's a very heartfelt person, and that's why we did the remix, because his email was so touching and friendly and respectful, and so he sent this track, and when we got the track we loved it anyway. It sounded like Nick Drake, but now. Perfect. We love Nick Drake and we love this song, so that's one to work on. We work in a weird way. After the trial where we sued the insurance company, a few weeks later we got a letter in the post this package, and inside was this really beautiful letter, and it was from this woman Diane Koski, and she said, "You don't realize who I am, but I was one of the jurors in your court case, and we wanted to let you know that we all really appreciated meeting you. We felt as if we were meeting you in the court case. We really, Doug, cause I can't think of the right word, we really liked what you were saying, why you do things, and, oh by the way, I work in the LA Zoo and I look after the howler monkeys, so here's a tape of the howler monkeys waking up. Then if you want to use it in your music, it's good for you." The jury said thank you to me. "That's amazing." And so we had that from 1996, the tape, but we didn't use it until we did the remix with Trent Reznor, and that it's the weird sound in the background. The engineer Sean said, "Is it true you've got a really old, antique Tibetan thigh bone trumpet?" And we said yes, it is actually. It's over 300 years old. It belonged to Druk Bakunli, who was the original Buddhist monk who started the crazy path, and so he said, "I've always wanted to play one of those. Do you think you could bring it in so I could try playing it, because he plays trumpet?" So we said, "Yeah, sure, we'll bring it in." So we brought it in the next day and he played it, and it sounded really good, so we added that to the Trent Reznor remix. He's now on a Trent Reznor record. Exactly, you should be generous. Generosity is an extremely potent and powerful tool for change. I think it's actually Janice. They looked really similar when they were young. It's a beautiful photograph. We didn't even remember it being taken. It was the same person who took the photos of me with my boa constrictor, whose name was Isabella Constrictor or not, both laughed. Sadly, Scotland Yard took her away with all the other stuff and put her in a zoo, but she's safe, so that's good. But they wouldn't tell me where. Of course, and the only things that would have been hurtful to me were the things that were in the press, cause they knew the real me from growing up. As far as they were concerned, it's Papa, and they still really adore me. I mean, Karez is having her first child now in December. The Granny Jen coming. We still get on really well. We took them everywhere, and when we went to Nepal for the first time, we took the children. When we went into the jungles near Burma, we took the children, and when we were hanging out with William Burroughs, we took the children. I know we've got pictures of Karez a few weeks old in Burroughs' arms on a stage at the Final Academy while he's blessing them. And we've got pictures of them with Derek Jarman, and he adored them. So even though it might seem unusual to people who aren't involved in creative activity, they met some of the leading thinkers of the age. They called William Granddad William ... and we would have. That's it. See, you have to think back. My technique was, if it was me that was this child, what would we like? What would we remember more vividly in a positive way? And if we felt that would be the case, that they would have a positive memory, like something like meeting Burroughs, then we would go ahead. If we thought it might not be a positive event, something we would have preferred not to happen to us, then we wouldn't do it. And even though we lived this really unconventional life, we treated the children very carefully. We always had a nanny if we were on tour that was dedicated just to taking care of them. They always had their own room in a hotel, so if they were tired they could go to bed and be safe. But they also, when we did sound checks, had their own microphone, so if they wanted to join in they could. It was just never keeping things in separate boxes, but allowing them the entire experience and believing that that's a really healthy way of growing up to a full, well-rounded vision of what the world is really like. You know, they helped at the soup kitchen so the age of 6 and 8. They were giving food and water to lepers who had no fingers, etc., and who couldn't walk, and they were fine. Those are happy memories for them, because these people would still smile and be so grateful, and to children they had no preconceptions. Oh, this must be disgusting. It was just, oh, he has no fingers but he seems nice, and we did think, their mother and myself, that was proof that we did raise them in a really positive way. They could not be freaked out. Oh my god, what's that? It was more like, oh, what's that, or is that what it is? It's an illness? What a shame. Loving and compassionate. What's next for you then, Genesis? Are you going to come to the UK again soon? Because I know the Louder Than War readers would love to see you, whether it was art installation or music. We'd love to have you back here. We enjoyed the Rough Trade book launch. Miles was great, wasn't he? Who was there with me? Leah Mason, that we mentioned, and afterward, she said she'd seen me give lectures many times by this point. She said that was the best talk I've ever heard you give. She said, it must have been because you were with Miles, who's a really good friend from a long time, because she said you seemed so relaxed and natural and easygoing, but you were saying important things. So that was good to know. For the future, Thursday, we're going to Berlin and Friday there's rehearsals. We're going to be in a play about Cookie Mueller. It's been organized by people in Berlin. Have you heard some of the music of the live version? We'll send you some of the music that we've been doing. And in projects, the next important one after Berlin is Chorus's Baby, of course, in December, and then we go to Africa the 30th December to Benin, which is on the west coast of Africa near Nigeria, to the main city that's called Continue, and that's where more slave ships ship from Africa, more than any other port, and it's also the home of what's become known as voodoo, and they do this ritual every 7 years, which is related to the Dogon, who worship beings from Sirius every 7 years. So we're going to do a documentary of me interviewing different. They call them ghosts, we call them priests, but they call them ghosts, and just discuss what are the roots of all of it. Are there roots to every indecipherable system that is the same? You know, where are the common factors of all these different stories and mythologies, and are they not mythologies? Are they actually the truth about what's happened? Because so many of these tribes, for example the Dogon, when they were first studied for anthropology not that long ago, about 20 odd years ago, maybe 30, they knew not only the star Sirius, they knew it and give it a different name. They also knew it had 2 moons that had an egg-shaped orbit that lasted 7 years, but we only found that out in the last 20 years with telescopes. How did they know that for hundreds of years? How? One is an out-of-body experience, which means you can travel through space and time, and the other is that they had contact with people from there. There's no other way. So that's always been one of our ongoing fascinations, the roots of culture, the roots of belief, and the stories, you know, trying to find the ultimate story. Where do we come from? Why did we suddenly become intelligent? So we're looking forward to that, and then we go to Scandinavia in February as Psychic TV, but no one's invited us to London in a while.